Beauty.
Toe strike, 21 millimeters toe.
Not swinging this close to Bryson's speed whatsoever, but what he found when he started hanging with Kyle Berkshire and Martin Borgmeier and all those guys playing the same heads, and when Cobra were making him long drive heads, that increase in bulge and roll, I think he found that he was actually hitting it much straighter.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are filming this Monday after the Masters. We have had a placeholder in our schedule for about a month to do a video on something that happened at the Masters, just knowing that the first major of the year, there is some event, shot, equipment choice, whatever it may be that happens that is a talking point.
Something to stir up the golf industry.
Definitely. Monday of last week at Augusta, we got our talking point. The tournament actually hadn't even started, and I think it was Wednesday, I'd messaged everyone saying, I know what we're going to do next Monday. We're going to get into Bryson's irons. It's very Bryson to turn up the week of a major and have not just a brand new iron set in play, a set that had just been passed by the USGA to be deemed conforming. The week of a major, with all the things that are going on and all this sort of, there's a lot of media attention, Live, PGA Tour, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No.
Bryson especially does not care.
Nope. And I think we talked about this earlier throughout the week, and we'll dive into the technology in a second, but is this going a little too above and beyond? Would this work for everyone? And again, we'll dive into that in a second, but the fact that he's tested stuff, he's come up with, an idea with a team of experts, and, the team at Avoda Golf have obviously helped him do this.
Yeah.
For the fact that they've been approved and they're in the bag right away, I mean, he's obviously confident in them. He played decently well with them, so.
Definitely. Last year, it was last year, Bryson completely changed up the top end of his bag.
Yeah.
And went with, he put a crank driver, certainly 5-wood. I think he might have a 3-wood now, but I know it was a driver and 5-wood he had. But for a PGA Tour player to use a non-OEM, traditional OEM club coming out of his Cobra stuff that he'd obviously been playing, that was a little bit of an interesting one, that he would go to something totally different. I don't really think people understood why that was, and I think this is leaning into why he's went this direction with the irons. Bryson, in his journey to gain all the speed that he gained, obviously not just ended up in long drive territory, he ended up runner-up in the World Long Drive Championship.
Yeah.
The guy ended up in the 220, around 218, 220 mile an hour ball speed with a long drive driver, but in play regularly on the tour, 200, 205 miles an hour, just like a place no one had ever been before. And traditionally, golf equipment is not designed to handle that type of speed, and neither is it designed to handle those types of misses.
Yeah, it's he's the equipment that we're all using, and I'm sure Tour has some other level of equipment that's a little bit more detailed to them. It's not designed for that speed whatsoever, and he's fast. Now, I think Bryson is still pretty quick, but I think he's kind of toned it down a bit from the long drive days, but. This will be an interesting topic, because, I mean, the amount of DMs you got, the amount of DMs I got, people like, where can I buy so-and-so? I was like, stay tuned, because I don't know if you need them yet.
Well, they're not available, aren't they? I mean, Bryson set were literally 3D printed. They're dealing with tolerances in the thousandth of an inch. It's an incredible process they went through to make the irons what they were. And again, we don't know all the details. Very kindly, Tom Bailey from Avoda, and I had, in the last literally few hours, I've been kind of going back and forward a little bit, and there's been an article already on Golf Week. Definitely check that out, guys. There's lots of detail about these new irons in that. But we're going to do some testing on this concept of why has Bryson engineered horizontal roll on his irons. This would be a representation, a bit of a butchered representation.
To the science lab.
Well, I think as we try and understand, the face on a golf club is not flat, on a wood is not flat. Therefore, these three T's represent the start line and this is the non-deflected start line. This is the angle at which the toe points to the right on a right-handed golf club, the heel points to the left. We've all heard the term gear effect. What is gear effect? The gear effect is when we strike off center, the head will twist outward, the ball will twist inward. They will have counter force against one another. That will create some spin on the golf ball, right? So as we hit that toe position and we deflect that club to the right, I mean, remember the golf ball and the golf club are only in contact for about 4/10,000ths of a second. It's a fraction of a blink of an eye. So the deflection, the impact interval is not long enough for the deflection solely just to send the club offline. We need a little bit of that horizontal roll to the face as well. So we're going to strike it in the toe. We know we're going to get that gearing, that toe sort of, that hook spin, if you like. We have to offset that with a more rightward start line.
Right.
That's why we have curvature in the face. We do not need that in the center strike, right? Because we're getting a square blow. We're not impacting any gear effect as long as we strike it on the sort of stable axis. And then the same thing with the heel. We're going to strike it in the heel. We're going to get a closing deflection, but we're going to get cut spin to that golf ball, and they're designed to counter one another. So when we see those three tees and one point that way, one point that way, one pointing there, that's the representation of this roughly 11-inch radius is how it's measured in terms of driver design. So why do we not play irons that have this radius? Well, if we take an iron and we take the face of a driver and we look at how much smaller the surface is, and we go this way, right? And the depth of the center of gravity is a big part of this, the rotation of the golf club around the center of mass. The center of mass in this driver's probably back here somewhere. Well, the center of mass on this golf club is somewhere up close to the face. So there's not much to rotate around, and there's not much gearing actually even happens. We get a little bit. Yeah. It's not nothing. No. But only really at tour speed does it become something. Right. And that's the key point I want to make here, guys, is that unless you are really, really high in club speed like Bryson is, and remember, the loft that he plays a part in this as well. Because the lesser the loft, the more impacted, I don't want to call it spin axis tilt. That's the correct terminology. I don't want to call it side spin, but people think of it as side spin. We've got spin axis tilt left, we've got spin axis tilt right. The iron does not produce nearly that amount, right? Because there's more backspin on the iron. So the backspin does counter the amount of rotation. Hope you're still with us. I know we're in the weeds, right? We're waist deep in the weeds, but we're going to get into a little bit of why has Bryson put these on his irons. Cool. Okay, let's go hit some. Okay. All right.
Okay, Fraz. We're going to hit a couple 6 irons. We've got a somewhat Bryson build.
Bryson's somewhat close to his previous set.
Well, 10 flex is softer.
Yes.
And a different head, but Ping I-230s with LA Golf 120s in there.
Grip.
On these strikes with irons, you are looking for a relationship of face to path?
Yeah. I mean, we want to look at anything externally out of the face to path relationship. So we know that if the path is in to out and the face is a little bit closed to that path, but open to the target, we will get a ball that starts right and finishes roughly on the target. We want to see if we can get some evidence that we can hit it in that toe strike in that scenario, face right of the target, left of the path. And do we see more gear effect from that one? Is the gear effect a contribution to the side spin? Is effectively, which would mean there would be a need for horizontal roll. Right. Okay. So let's have a look. Try and do somewhat of a neutral starter. Okay. So pausing that a second. So we have, path a hair left. So what did that do? We curved slightly right. Face open to the path, less than a degree. We should have some counter rotation from the toe strike. So again, we're working this model.
Okay.
Pretty good. Set a couple more.
How was that?
Looked like a pretty good strike. Okay, so a couple of shots in a row. We have face angle, a degree and a half open, tiny amount. We have a toe strike a couple of times in a row.
Yeah.
We are not seeing the club's ability to correct the impact of the face being open to the path.
Right, okay.
We're not seeing that.
No.
Let's see if we can push that strike a little bit, because that is evidence we're not seeing gear effect. Really minute, if anything. So same strike. We're hitting them pretty much in the same spot.
Yeah.
Face is half a degree closed, and we see the tiniest amount of leftward gearing. I think it's fairly safe to say at my speed and at 132 ball speed, I'm probably in and around tour average, maybe a little bit more than the reported averages, but probably quite similar to the average tour player at those numbers. That's not a million miles away. Okay, so we're not really seeing, let's hit one in the heel. That's the one thing we haven't done. It was interesting. So definitely a heel strike.
Yeah.
So face was 1 degree closed to the path.
Yeah.
Path was really neutral. Face got a little bit closed. All geared right.
Interesting.
So a little presentation of gear effect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right. So in that sense, Bryson, I guess, is saying that for him, that ball would curve more than that. For us, it's not really curved very much.
Curve more because of his speed.
Because of his speed so much higher. I mean, if I'm 129 ball speed, he's probably 145 ball speed. Somewhere in that region, certainly somewhere I cannot get to.
Now with bulge and roll on an iron for him at his speed, is there, so it's going to help his miss hit?
So he has horizontal roll.
Right,
He doesn't have vertical roll.
Right, okay.
Because we definitely would never want a low strike launching lower to offset this spin. So he only has some toe to heel roll that way. So does that sort of...
Yeah.
Is that what you were kind of asking about, like about that way? So really all it is to... Bryson was seeing curvature on miss hits that he wanted to offset the start line of with this amount of roll. Let's see if we can see a little difference if we can crank the speed up a little bit. Not quite Bryson territory by any means, but 134.
134, 97.
Center strike.
Little low, but center strike, yeah.
And I think, again, we're talking about like how much curvature. It's probably dependent on the loft.
Yeah.
It probably is more prevalent in the long irons as well. I would imagine as we have less loft, you need the offset of the start direction more. So again, until we know more about these irons, we probably won't know. Let's dive into the driver.
Okay. All right, Fries, into the driver. You're the guru on this topic. I'm just here, the student learning, flabbergasted. Again, looking for a face-to-path relationship with driver?
Yeah, we're looking to obviously... The hard bit with this topic is not going all the way in. You want to go all the way in. You want to start talking about D-plane, 3D sort of patterns of why the ball is doing what it's doing. But right now, we're only interested in the value of a curved golf face, club face. That's what we're really talking right now. So we're talking now about a face-to-path relationship, its influence on the ball, and the third-party influence of the horizontal roll of the club. How does that offset the face-to-path relationship? Which it does, because it's not a flat face, right? So let's look at that. Big heel strike. I want to see where the face is on that one.
Okay.
I don't know if the face is going to be very open there.
1.2 degrees open, and you're 6 millimeters heel and low heel.
Okay. So 1 degree open, 25 yards right. Let's see if we can do a similar delivery with a toe strike. Little bit more toe side, Mikey.
Well, 6 millimeters toe.
Beauty.
There you go. Face open.
Face.
Toe strike, 21 millimeters toe.
Face open, 0.2 of a degree.
Yeah.
We've got the leftward curvature. Now, it's not an awful lot. I mean, that ball's ended up 300 yards, 1 yard off line to the right.
Still face open though. That's the biggest thing.
That's the key.
Yeah.
That is the key. And again, not swinging this close to Bryson's speed whatsoever, but what he found when he started hanging with Kyle Berkshire and Martin Borgmeyer and all those guys playing the same heads, and when Cobra were making him long drive heads, that increase in bulge and roll, I think he found that he was actually hitting it much straighter.
Yeah.
But trying to get him to make him a driver like that for production, for tour play,
Yeah.
I don't think the relationship kind of,
Right.
they ever got to that. So that's a good example of slight face open, but toe strike obviously brings it back online. Okay, let's go towards the heel strike.
$14 millimeters and
So we know the face. So if we go up to that face 2 degrees closed to that target line, right? Go up to the top right and go back to the shot shape. So effectively, the path and the face are both going left.
Mm-hmm.
That, in terms of, again, a flat face, that ball does not curve back.
Right.
It just stays
out that
stays
direction.
on that line unless we have the corrective, obviously, gear effect, right?
Okay.
So, guys, that is in a nutshell. Those two shots are why bulge and roll is so effective on a driver, so good on a wood. Yet it doesn't really have the same impact for the average guy,
Right.
girl, player. It just does not create the same curvature. Therefore, we don't need at regular speeds this curved face that Bryson is now playing with.
Interesting.
And again, time will tell, and more information will come out. Is it through the whole bag? Is it six? Is it anything under 30 degrees aloft?
I'd love to see them in person, just see what they look like.
Definitely, me too.
But again, he played pretty well with the set, and cool again that a company like Avoda Golf have stepped up to 3D print for him. We know that stuff's not cheap.
Well, they said it was like $10,000 of his own money that kind of was put into getting these things 3D printed, right away.
Yeah, no, it's impressive.
Okay, guys, I hope you hung in there with us. Not an easy one to digest. I'm sure you feel like you need a nap. I need a nap. Mikey needs
I need 2
a week
naps.
off.
Oh, okay.
So something to think of. Bryson the game needs Bryson.
Yeah.
It needs Bryson. He is so prepared to think about every nuance along the way for him to be better. And he's not afraid of making changes the week of a major, that type of thing. Huge credit to Tom Bailey. I'm so happy when I messaged him. I said, listen, we'd love to test your irons on the channel and do that. He's like, yeah, I'll get you set in June when they're back in stock.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm so happy because reading a little bit into Tom's story with Avoda, it was kind of, he was a single length enthusiast. He got together with Mike Shy to kind of look at that a little bit. As they started discussing things that were and were not available in the market, I think Mike Shy basically challenged him, build a set for Bryson.
Yeah.
You want to get into this game, build him a set. Nobody will be your biggest critic or biggest advocate than Bryson. Get it right, and he'll play a set.
Yeah.
Lo and behold.
He's got the ideas, right? And if a company's willing to do it, that's all he needs. He just needs a lab to get it done.
Without a doubt. So I think what we're going to conclude with is, for the average golfer, for the golfer who watches our channel, up to whatever speed, really. Because unless you're faster than Bryson and have the same, same needs as him, I think there's very few people are in that realm. The standard equipment has the right design tolerances. This sort of range of 10 to 12 inches of sort of horizontal roll on a club face to offset the amount of gearing from a toe or heel strike is plenty. And hopefully those two sort of at the end there with those two strikes where, we get a closed face relative to the target, but the ball bends back. That's what we want.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want. Okay, guys, hope you enjoyed this. This one's for the golf nerds. If you're watching this, if you're still watching this, you're one of us. You're in the heart. There's no doubt about that. So this is what this channel exists for, to dive into these topics, not shy away from them, and hopefully help you guys understand a little bit more about the design characteristics of golf clubs. So if you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. There's much more coming your way. Maybe not this in depth, but more good content related to equipment. Stay tuned for more, and we'll see you again soon.